This is, the only word for this is childish. I mean, it's kind of out of the nyan-yanny poo-poo school of grade school taunts.
Welcome to this week's Wacky Moments of Liberal Expression. You know, sometimes it's amazing the difference a day makes. On Wednesday of this week, Nancy Pelosi wrote a letter to President Trump telling him not to give his State of the Union address because of security concerns due to the shutdown. Nothing to do with politics. But the liberal media lapped up her letter with glee and called it a power play.
The power play from Democrat Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker, flexing her muscles in a move that appears designed to deprive the president of a high-profile platform to attack Democrats.
The Speaker made this brazen power play, suggesting that unless the president can agree to reopen the government, there will be no State of the Union address. In a bold power play, the Speaker of the House tonight is sending a pointed message to President Trump, suggesting no deal to reopen the government, no State of the Union.
Political power play against the president by the House Speaker.
This was kind of a badass move. She surprised everybody.
Oh man, I mean, Nancy's so badass, huh? So on Thursday, when Trump sends her a letter canceling her government flights abroad because of the shutdown, well, you know, they held the same admiration for him, right?
Well, our nation's capital has officially become a playground, Brooke. The president has responded in sort of a childish way is the only way to describe it.
The only phrase that comes to mind is nanny, nanny, boo-boo.
Right, sandbox, get out of the sandbox. The wording, it's just, the wording in this is incredible to me because it is this kind of dumb tit for tat.
This is, the only word for this is childish. I mean, it's kind of out of the nyan-yanny poo-poo school of grade school taunts.
The nanny poo-poo school. That is actually now in a transcript. The broadcast transcript says this. Do you ever get the feeling that the media might just have a liberal bias? Maybe. Okay, well, here's one for you. Friday marks the 46th annual March for Life, and ABC, NBC, and CBS Morning News offered zero coverage, none. Thousands of pro-lifers marching, not worth noting. CBS in particular was way too busy giving preview coverage to Saturday's Women's March.
Maine Women's March will once again be held in Washington with about 300 sister marches also planned nationwide. Linda Sarsour, a co-founder of the organization, told us she is enthusiastic and excited about this weekend.
Thousands of women are expected to protest across the country tomorrow in the latest Women's March. The first one on the day after President Trump was inaugurated in 2017 drew millions of demonstrators.
You know, I seem to remember something else about the coverage of that Women's March and President Trump as well.
The crowds were large, but you're going to have a large crowd on Friday, too, which is mostly pro-life people. You're going to have a lot of people coming on Friday. And I will say this, and I didn't realize this, but I was told, you will have a very large crowd of people. I don't know, as large or larger. Some people say it's going to be larger, pro-life people. And they say the press doesn't cover them.
I don't want to compare crowd sizes again.
No, you shouldn't. But let me just say, what they do say is that the press doesn't cover them.
I guess they don't recall that, but it seems when a Republican president says something, they may not actually be listening. Take MSNBC's Chris Matthews, for instance.
Mr. President, yes or no? Have you, or are you now, have you ever worked for Russia? Yes
I never worked for Russia. Greg, the question is, I mean, by most people who, on all sides of this fight, why did he deny it?
It would have been awfully easy to say no or of course not or anything like that. He went everywhere else around.
Well, explain again why he can't answer the question.
What do you mean he can't answer the question? You just played his answer to the question.
Mr. President, yes or no? Have you, or are you now, have you ever worked for Russia? Yes
I never worked for Russia.
Yeah, that answer was so ambiguous it completely stumped Matthews and his panel, and they just had to debate it all day. Not debatable was CNN's Areva Martin. She called out Fox News' David Webb for his white privilege.
I never considered my color the issue. I considered my qualifications the issue.
Well, David, you know, that's a whole nother long conversation about white privilege and things that you have the privilege of doing that people of color don't have the privilege of.
How do I have the privilege of white privilege?
David, by virtue of being a white male, you have white privilege. This whole long conversation, I don't have time to get into it.
Ariva, I hate to break it to you, but you should have been better prepped. I'm black.
Oh, the benefits of being on radio, I guess. Lame liberal narrative meets facts, crashes. It's just not pretty. It is amazing, though, when black people cash in on their white privilege, isn't it? We do know that to the liberal media, everything is due to one thing. It's racism, right? MSNBC in particular eliminates the idea that the government shutdown has anything to do with wall funding or border security. It's all about, you guessed it.
It is certainly not about an actual policy to build an actual wall. Remember, the wall originated as a device to jog the president's memory to make sure to remind him to cater to the most xenophobic part of the base of the Republican Party. Because there is a cluster of people in the Republican Party who catapulted Trump to his win in the primaries who hate and or fear immigrants. And not only that, these are people who define their political life by stemming and stopping the invasion of people who do not look like them.
But remember, the liberal media knows there is absolutely no strain of any racism on the left.
This does not have a parallel on the left. It doesn't. There isn't. There isn't a strain of racism on the left.
That's it for this week. I'm Eric Shiner from MRC-TV. We'll return next week with more liberal media wackiness.